Okay, so I wanted to drop in a quick vlog reflection just before I go into Costco, and I will tell you I'm not looking forward to going into Costco, but I have a few minutes just while I'm sussing out my list of stuff, checking my texts quickly and updating my shopping list. So I thought I wanted to drop in a quick reflection about mentorship. And recently I've become connected with something called OEM Connect, and this is through another group called On Ed Mentors, where teachers that are in service have offered up to mentor pre-service candidates, and it's really cool. And this is, if you want to check it out, hashtag On Ed Mentors or hashtag OEM Connect, and there's lots of stuff for you to check out there. But it's got me thinking about what are the tensions for me in a mentorship relationship. So, you know, the general frame of this is that all of the individuals, as in the mentor teachers that decided that they wanted to be a part of this, they posted their profile, which was sort of like the bits and pieces of what they do and who they are and what they think in a short blurb. And then the mentees had a peek to see, you know, how does that description kind of fit with what I'm looking for in mentorship. And I started to think about how the actual items on that list, how they are sort of communicated once the relationship comes together. So it's a little bit the difference between, you know, reading a menu and thinking to yourself, wow, I really like all the ingredients in this dish, and then receiving the dish and trying to decide whether or not all those elements actually harmonize well into something that you would enjoy as opposed to something that you're curious about. So I've been connected with a mentee. The mentee's name is Rachel McIntyre, and she is someone right now that is looking to develop her digital literacy. She wants to use video. She wants to use YouTube. She's thinking about how to use YouTube for booktube or book chats. And the greatest thing is that she has been making these videos since secondary school. So she's got a really robust portfolio of videos, and she shared some with me, and they're really cool. And we're sort of in conversation right now about you know, what are the qualities of that. Like, that's our conversation right now. So we've had one meeting, and part of the assignment in the mentee mentor is that the mentee actually has to go back, and there's some tasks that are involved with, from the mentee's perspective, they have to speak back to their faculty, and then there'll be, you know, on my side as the mentor, I'm in professional conversations with the rest of OEM Connect. And it's, again, it got me thinking about what is it about the mentor relationship that really drives me. So what are I started to think, like, are these the tensions of mentorship, or are these the qualities or the categories? I don't know what it is, but there are a few things that kind of struck me as being critical to it. I'm just not sure in what way, other than I think that they're important to me. And as I started to put together this list, I started to think about, well, the items that are important to me, are they also important to my mentee? So that's going to be part of the next conversation that I have with her, because despite the menu of items that she looked at in order to connect with me, now we're sort of getting into the relationship part, as in, can those items be communicated through the way that we relate? So here's some of the bits that I've come up with. And again, anybody wants to connect with me, comment on this, share it, you know, please do. And I'm more than open to discuss this. This is me kind of digging into what it is, I guess, what I'm looking for. If I were looking for mentorship, what I offer as a mentor, and at the tail end wondering if that's exactly what my mentee is looking for. So I really don't know, but I wanted to get this on tape just so I could get outside of my head. So the first thing that came to mind was this idea of noticing everything and saying nothing. And it's a tension in so much as, when you're getting to know people, you know, being able to sort of just take in everything that they're communicating, whether or not, you know, it could be their behaviors, it could be the words, it could be their emotions, it could be anything that you see, anything that you hear, the feelings that are sort of created in you, and you're taking in a whole lot of information. And when I say notice everything and say nothing, it's not say nothing absolute. It's just spend more time noticing exponentially more time noticing, so that when you do say something, you have a lot more channels that are informing it. And I'll say that what makes it difficult about me, and I've read this in other mentors' comments, is as a mentor, they're really looking to help. They want to give, they want to kind of jump in, they want to suggest. And I think that this kind of leads to the second thing that I was thinking about, which is wait for it. And I think back to my time when I was branch president for our high school, for our union, and there was always some stress. Well, of course, always stress if you're called into the principal's office for a discussion. And one of the ways that I tried to help my colleagues kind of reframe that conversation, or at least the power dynamic in that conversation, was wait for a question, or in some cases, wait for a direct question. So I think that's what the wait for it is that for me as the mentor, waiting for a direct question that I feel I can then help out with, speak to, observe upon, or inject some, I don't know, life experience into. Third thing, and I don't know where this fits in the stack. These aren't, I'm saying three, but I'm not saying this is sequential, is building in a breakup. And it's a two-parter, build in a breakup / encourage people to see other people. And I'm making that very much like, I'm commenting on the relationship in that there is an element within the mentor-mentee relationship that can make it almost a silo and make it seem as if the mentor is the only individual that can actually help the mentee. And in some ways, the mentee assuming that the mentor is only for them, that this is the only sphere that they are communicating within, when in reality, the mentees within, let's say, a cohort, or mentees are constantly seeking more information, more experience, more connectivity. And mentors should also realize that they're not the end-all be-all to whatever question, back to the wait for it, that they might be asked directly. So when I say build in a breakup, I think there's something to the structure of the relationship that, it would be good if it was time-bound to honor the sort of like the energy and the drive that's in the relationship to sort of like go towards an outcome. So fourth thing that I'm thinking about is feeding naivete. And I mean that in a very positive fashion, because I think that the idea or the cachet that falls around naivete is like somehow that it's not, that it's a lesser form of curiosity, or that it's somehow bound to turn up bad results. But time and time again, where I really am thrilled by it is where I have people that comment in, a pro-social and a positive fashion on something that I'm doing and sort of give their take on it, which isn't my take, may have been my old take, but maybe it's just, it's a refreshing view on where my ideas started, or where this person's ideas are starting. And really important, I think, in that point is that if you're feeding the naivete, I mean, you can read that as being a cheerleader, but it's also a little bit about saying, go for it. You have to go for it. All my things that I've posted on, my description to be your mentor came at some cost of risk, and I had to take a chance to see. In order for me to get life experience and be able to reflect upon it, I have to sort of put myself into experiences. And sometimes the naivete, which can just mean the go-gettedness or the openness or the willingness to try, I really think that I appreciate that, and I hope that in the mentor-mentee relationship, sort of feeding that and saying, yeah, go for it. Let's see what happens. What will happen next? Like these whole sort of like pushing into the open space, just off the edge of the bird's nest, so to speak. I think that's another element. And finally, actually, there's two finally. Recategorizing mistakes. And where I go with that is that if something is somehow deemed to be a failure, or it didn't work out, being able to take that out of the sort of inbox of mistake and put it into another category so that it can be seen as learning, And if it can't be recategorized into another inbox for learning, then to dispense with it. But I often think that some of those broken pieces of ideas that didn't turn out as expected become the prototype for another idea. So an assignment that you tried out that just crashed on its, the students didn't connect with it. Well, the learning that comes out of that needs to be recategorized away from error, away from mistake, and into a file folder that says, to be filed. You might not even have the file folder yet, but to be filed, and you hang on to that idea until you find a space to put it in. Someone told me early in my teaching career that often my reach was beyond my grasp. So there were things that I was kind of grabbing and reaching onto that I didn't really have a sense of how it worked within my pedagogy yet. But I hung on to it, and these become some of the memories that kind of pop up, and they return as sort of like these notes from the past to help inform what I'm doing now. Side note, doing some sort of reflective practice and doing videos like this is a great way to recategorize some of your mistakes and to archive them in a way that you can find them later. Finally, my successes as the mentor are not the successes for the mentee. And vice versa. The mentee's successes are not my successes. And what I mean by this is that often there are elements, I think, of that start in that relationship that somehow we want to do too much work, mentors, I'm going to go parents, teachers, to protect, to enclose, to shield the people that we're either training or working with from their mistakes, from not sort of like when their project is tilting sideways and it looks like it might not go there. Like all of these things is that success that could turn out entirely has to be owned by the mentor or the mentee. And the other part too to that is that if the mentee is successful, that is their win. There's no badge on my chest for that. It is the mentee that made that thing happen. And I think as far as allowing their successes to be theirs and for mine to be, my own successes, despite the relationship that we're building together, right? But, if I think by keeping those slightly compartmentalized, then it keeps the ego in check, and it also allows for some of those other things that I mentioned as far as, the ownership of the project or whatever it is that's working. So let their successes be theirs and my successes be mine. I wish I could have done this faster. The truck is way too warm right now. I got to get in and get my Costco stuff. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any comments on this, please message me back. You can find me on Twitter. You can message back at the base of this video. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.